While success means different things to different people, most people want to be successful. For some people, that means they want to make a lot of money, or they want to travel, or they want to have a family, but overall, we just want to be happy. But here's the thing. Many people aren't successful, even by their own definition of success. Why is that? After all, if you know what you want, why don't you do that? Why don't you have that thing that you think is the most important? Of course, there's different reasons why some people aren't successful, but really, I think the number one reason why most people aren't successful is because they're addicted to consumption. Of course, I'm not talking about drugs or alcohol here. I'm talking about being addicted to consuming media. They're addicted to watching Netflix or scrolling on social media or browsing on Amazon. These things are eating up lots of our time, and they're preventing us from doing those things we really care about and the things that will really make us successful. Being addicted to consuming prevents us from becoming successful because in order to be successful, we have to learn and or do. For anything that you want to become successful at, there are certain actions you must take and maybe things that you also need to learn. And so in order to reach that level of success that you want to be at, you need to watch some educational videos. You need to take some college classes or read a book. You need to put your nose to the grindstone and actually take action. Maybe you need to take yourself to the gym and work out. Maybe you need to sit down at your computer and build that website. Maybe you need to get out and practice your photography skills. Maybe you need to get out and meet people so that you can find someone to start a family with. Regardless of your goal or how you define success, there are things you need to do in order to make that happen. And if you're spending hours every single week scrolling on social media, watching Netflix, watching TV, watching movies, shopping online, well, that's going to eat up all of that extra time that you could be spending working on your goals. Here's the thing, most of us don't have that much extra time because in order to support ourselves and support our families, if we have families, we have to spend a certain amount of time just taking care of ourselves and working to provide for ourselves, and doing the chores and going to work take a lot of time. And it means we don't have that much time left. So if we spend what time we do have left wasted on that addiction to consumption, then we can never get off the hamster wheel of going to work just so that we can come home and watch TV. And then we have to go to work again so that we continue to support ourselves. And then we come home from work and we watch TV because we're in the habit of it, we're addicted to it, it's easy and it's rewarding. And we'll get into that a lot more in just a minute. But I think you can see how this becomes a cycle, and it's a difficult one to break. And it means that we'll never actualize our real potential here on Earth. Why is it that consumption is so much more common than doing? That we all fall into this trap of just consuming rather than creating or taking action? And what is it about media that makes it so addictive? Well, I think that the main reason why we are prone to this addiction is quite simply because consuming is much easier than creating. And especially because we all have to support ourselves in some way. We all have chores we have to take care of. After we've done that work, we don't want to do anything else that's difficult. We want something easy. We want to be passive, not do something active. And sometimes that means that our houses are messy because we don't feel like cleaning them after being gone all day at work. Sometimes it means that we never learn that skill that we really want to learn because after putting in all that brain energy at work, we don't really want to come home and do the learning we need to do in order to acquire that skill or put in the practice that we need to do. And sometimes it means that we never start the business or start the YouTube channel that we want to start because we've exhausted ourselves at work. And even beyond that, media itself tends to be really addictive. I mean, first of all, as I mentioned, it's easy. You can pick it up on your phone, you can turn it on your TV. It's always there, it's always around you, it's never more than an arm's length away. It's way easier to do that than to work on anything else, even if the other things you could work on are things you care about way more. And then beyond that, it's also all around you in the sense that it's what you see everyone else doing. Anywhere you go, there's the opportunity to consume media. So even if you're interested in doing the harder thing, it's being shoved in your face in so many different ways. Now, of course, that's not to say that we are victims of it. We can still choose to do whatever we want to do, but it's easier to consume the media sometimes than it is to choose to do something else that we really want to do. And then the icing on the cake, the thing that truly makes media addictive, is that you get a brain chemical release when you consume media. Basically, consuming media makes your brain release certain hormones like dopamine that make you feel happy, at least in a certain way, right when you do it, and it gives you a reward. It makes you feel good to consume media. It gives you that instant gratification. And that's what makes it truly addictive. I mean, that's how all addictions work. That's how drug addictions work and food addictions and all other sorts of addictions. Because you get that brain chemical release when you do the activity. And that makes you want to do it over and over again, just like you're a rat in a maze pushing that button over and over again. And that's how social media works, and that's how TV works. And so in that way, we kind of are victims because we're having it shoved in our face all the time, and we have to really resist in order to not give in to the temptation. Of course, that doesn't mean we have to resist all the time. There's nothing wrong with sometimes watching TV or sometimes being on social media. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Unless there is something wrong with it, unless it's getting in the way of your real priorities in life, unless it's getting in the way of you being successful by your definition of success. Because the opposite of success is failure. And if you have an addiction to social media, an addiction to consuming that is causing you to be a failure, well, that's a problem. Maybe you disagree with me and you don't think this is a problem, or maybe you don't have an addiction to media. I hope that that is the case. And if that's the case, you can turn off the video right now because you don't have the problem that I'm talking about here. But I know that a lot of people do, including myself. Sometimes I struggle with wasting my time scrolling on social media, reading articles on the internet, watching movies. Those things can waste a lot of time, and not waste it in a good way where I'm really relaxing and enjoying it, but just waste it so that I'm giving up other things that I'd rather be spending my time on. And if that is the case for you, and it's something that you'd like to work on, if you'd like to spend less time consuming, if you'd like to work on overcoming your addiction, and you do think that you have something of an addiction, then keep on watching, because I have 4 different suggestions for some things you can do to reclaim some of your time so that you have it available to spend on the things you really care about. First of all, awareness goes a long way. Now that you are aware that you have an addiction, that it's not just a simple habit, it's not just something you spend a little bit too much time on, but it's truly something that you're feeling compelled to do, that it's truly something that, at least in a sense, you are chemically addicted to. Now that you're aware of that, now you can work on moving past it. So that first step, if you agree with me that we have this addiction, then you've already done this. And now you can work on looking for solutions to the problem. You can work on putting down your phone simply because you feel that urge to pick it up. And you can start to resist. The second thing you can do is work on your clarity. Clarity about what you really want in life, what your priorities really are, how you define success, and what you want to do. Because until you have clarity about what you want to do, it's going to be really difficult to resist that temptation to just consume media, because you don't really have a reason to resist. And it's a strong addiction that most of us have to wanting to consume, because like I said, it's so easy to consume and it feels so good to consume. So until we get clarity on what it is we really want, we won't be able to resist. So what is it that you want? If you could do one more thing before you die, what would it be? What is something that you want to do, or something you want to become, a skill you want to develop, something you want to build or create, or a relationship that you really want to prioritize? I'd recommend spending some time journaling about this. If you're not much of a journaler, you might just skip that step, but try spending even just a few minutes. Write 1 page about it. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just write down what you really want. You can start by writing, what I really want is, and then answer that question. And then just start over. But what I really want is, and keep doing that over and over again. But what I really want is, and answer the question. Tip number 3 is to create before you consume. Consuming actually makes it more difficult for you to be a creative, or for you to do the things that you need to do. Not only does it take your time, but even consuming is draining some of your energy. When you spend all day laying on the couch, not that you do that every day, but if you spend some time laying on the couch, you're gonna feel a lot less like getting up and moving or getting up and doing. And so if you want to make the most progress, move closer to your goals, then every day, every time you have the opportunity, spend some time creating or doing before you consume. For me, this means that when I get up in the morning, I like to come into my office right away. As soon as I've taken just a few minutes to wash my face and brush my teeth and put my clothes on, I'll come in here and I'll just start working just a little bit, just to get my foot in the door, start making a little bit of progress. And I try to stay off social media as much as I can throughout my workday until I finish doing whatever creative work and doing whatever my highest priority tasks are. Because I find that I'm much more productive before I get distracted by social media. And finally, consider giving yourself rewards for doing the behaviors that you actually want to do. Like I said, you're automatically getting rewards for certain types of behaviors. Your brain is rewarding you with chemicals that make you feel good when you watch a movie, when you scroll on Instagram, or when you do all sorts of other things, like eat certain unhealthy foods, or even sleep in the morning. These things make you feel good in a certain way, and that's what can make them addictive. And so in order to counter that, you need to give yourself some sort of reward for doing the behavior that you want to see yourself do more of. So maybe this means that you treat yourself in some way every time you go to the gym, or every time you put in a certain amount of time working on your business, or every time you make a video here on YouTube. Whatever you need to do in order to get the results you want, you need to build in some sort of reward. And keep in mind that this reward, it doesn't need to be something big. You don't need to take yourself out to dinner or out to the movies or treat yourself to a 60-minute massage. These rewards can be tiny little things that are just a positive reinforcement. Personally, the rewards that I like to use for myself aren't necessarily things that I would otherwise see as treats, because a lot of the things that I would consider treats are indulgences and maybe not that good for me. So I like to find things that do feel good, but they're also good for me. And by using them as a reward, I see them in a better light. So for example, after spending an hour working, I might treat myself by taking a walk around the block. Now, it's not that I love walking around the block. In fact, in some other situations, I might be treating myself for walking around the block because I don't really feel like it. But by viewing it as a reward, it becomes a reward. And it helps me to have a more positive perspective on that thing that's actually good for me. Another example is maybe after doing chores around my house, which I want to do so that I have a cleaner house that's a more pleasant environment, I get to spend some time with a friend or call a friend. That's something that I want to do anyway, and I think I should do anyway to build those relationships further, but it's also something that feels nice. It gives me those positive chemicals in my brain because connecting with other people feels good. And then as one more example, after going to the gym, I might relax by taking a bath and reading a chapter of a book. Now again, reading is something that I enjoy doing, but it's also something I don't think I do enough of, and it's a habit that I want to encourage. And by making the reward be reading, I'm reinforcing in my mind that it's a good thing that I want to be able to do more of. I know that addiction to consumption isn't something that everyone struggles with, but I also know that these days a lot of us do because it's all around us, it's so easy, and it feels good. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with consuming media unless it's getting in the way of you pursuing your goals, of you prioritizing the things that are really important to you in life. Then there is something wrong with it, and that's when it's time to do something about it. That's all for today's video, but if you're new here, consider subscribing to my channel. I make new videos every single week on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. all about entrepreneurship, success, and personal development. You also can hit the bell down below if you want to get a notification when that next video comes out so you don't miss it. But on the other hand, you might not want to do that if you're working on getting over an addiction to consuming media. In fact, you might even want to turn off all your social media notifications, because that way you won't have to try so hard to resist so often. That's all for now, but I wish you all success as you work on pursuing whatever goals are meaningful to you, and I hope to see you again very soon.